We have a special guest today. It's my good friend and a major Bills YouTuber, Dan Mitchell. So I want you to stick around for the whole video because the content's going to be really good. Now, it's the first time I've had a guest on, so it's not split screen like I wanted it to be. That was just my mistake. Next time, I'll definitely correct that. But we talked a lot about some good Cowboys related things. Definitely appreciate Dan for coming on, and let's go and jump straight into it. What's going on, guys? So as promised, I'm here with my good friend and Bills YouTuber, Dan Mitchell. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bills and Cowboys today. Dan, how you doing?
Hey, Ryan, I'm doing fantastic, man. Definitely an honor to be on the Fratagonia channel. I know that I'm your first guest.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. You are, and it's a big guest to have. You have a really big following with the Bills, man. So I'm excited to have you on. So I'm
Yeah,
just going to jump straight to
absolutely.
it. I want to talk a little bit about Cole Beasley and his time in
hmm
Dallas, and now that he's a Buffalo Bill. So
hmm
as far as positives go, I thought he was, and I got a little thing of notes here on my phone, but I thought he was really quick, shifty, but not fast. He ran good routes. He has good hands, and he got open a lot. As a matter of fact, all the time. That was kind of the thing with that team. Cole Beasley and Jason Witten were pretty much always open, but the offense definitely lacked some explosiveness. And that was one of his big downsides. He was aging. He wanted a big contract. And we decided to go the cheaper route. I also kind of thought he was a little bit of a diva. He talked kind of bad
Yeah.
about Dallas's practice facilities. And I'm not too sure if this was before or after the brand new $1 billion Frisco Star was built. So kind of want to hear your thoughts about Beasley before he
Yeah.
came to Buffalo, what your expectations were, and how you feel about him now.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, really to understand this, you need to rewind to the 2018 Buffalo Bills. Like that was Josh Allen's rookie year. And let's just say that there was more glamorous wide receiver rooms in junior varsity teams in high schools at that point. So the Bills were in desperate need of not only receivers that could create space and get open, but just some type of star power. So the second that we ended up signing Cole Beasley, that was one of the two big names from a Bills fan perspective that we finally ended up bringing in. That was him and John Brown. And really, like with Cole Beasley, he did exactly what I expected him to. He was that slot receiver that was going to be pretty much a for sure option for Josh Allen. Like you said, he's not the fastest guy on the face of the planet, but his route running is definitely in the upper echelon within the NFL. Um, as far as being a diva, really didn't see a lot of that, like right in 2019. I'm not sure whether or not that has to do with the culture that Sean McDermott has put in place. But if I was a gambling man, it probably had to do with the fact that he was targeted significantly more than he was in a very, very long time. In fact, he was targeted 106 times. The only season that came close to that was 2016 in Dallas, which was statistically his best season. So I really think that when we ended up making the intro to Beasley to the Bills in 2019, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Now, I'm kind of nervous, especially since we ended up signing Stephon Diggs. So now there's a lot more mouths to feed this year. So I wonder if he's going to see the exact same amount of targets as he did in 2019. But that's just going to be a question once 2020 occurs. But as far as my expectations, right up Cole Beasley, he definitely did not disappoint me. And I'm really hoping that he can give us the exact same production that he put to the table in 2019.
Well, that's good to hear, Dan. And I got to be honest, when I saw his stats from last year, I was a little surprised that he had kind of the best year of his career. Like you said, he was really good in 2016 as well. So you could give or take those 2 years. But
Yeah.
at 31 years old, that was a bit surprising to me. And
Yeah, for sure. And so, like I said, like there really weren't a lot of mouths to feed on the Buffalo Bills offense last year. I mean, we were largely a run the damn ball rate, like right with the type of offense by itself. And then there was John Brown, right? So, I mean, those were really the only two receivers we had was Cole Beasley and John Brown. And granted, I mean, we had a couple like Isaiah McKenzie, et cetera, but those were largely the 1-2 punch. And I think it had to do with the fact that we just really didn't have a lot of options for Josh Allen. hence why he ended up blowing up last year.
Sure. Was John Brown a 1,000-yard receiver last year?
He was, in fact, the most quiet 1,000-yard receiver in the entire NFL. In fact,
I
I
was
think
about to
only
say.
Bills fans know that.
I was about to say John Brown's underrated, I should say. And the
Yeah.
only reason why I know John Brown's underrated is because I watch your channel some. That's kind of how I learned about him.
Yeah, for sure, man. You know, like, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I know that we're going to briefly touch on the Diggs brothers. But one thing that I'm super excited about John Brown this year is right with the fact that he's going to be lining up against CB2s all year. And if dude, man, can string up 1,000 yards last year, and so against some pretty good DBs like their CB1s, then I mean, I definitely see yet another year where John Brown's going to put up over 1,000.
Yeah, absolutely. That last year's campaign was very impressive from John Brown. I do want to mention this was probably a really good move from Cole Beasley. Obviously, it worked out really well for him. And to be honest, it didn't work out too bad for the Cowboys either. You know, we signed Randall Cobb last year pretty cheap. And I looked up their stats, and it was actually very similar. And Cobb got a payday, so he walked. He's with the Houston Texans now. So thought that was kind of interesting.
Sure.
And now Dallas is finally going kind of the more explosive route with Blake Jarwin at tight end. We brought in Tony Pollard to play alongside Zeke. And, of course, the big first-round pick, CeeDee Lamb. I'm sure you've heard of him.
And then Amari Cooper.
And, of course, Amari Cooper. And bringing up Amari Cooper, now I do want to talk a little bit about the Stephon Diggs signing for y'all. Or was it a trade or a signing? It was a trade, was it not? Okay, I thought so. But I thought it was a similar move to us going after Amari Cooper. And I kind of want to hear what you have to say about Stephon. I know his little brother Trayvon, signed with the Cowboys, got drafted by the Cowboys. So I'm really excited about that. I've heard great things about him. Just a really smooth athlete, and he's a ball hawk. So the kind of guy I like to see on the team. And I know Stephon's an exceptional athlete as well. So if you want to talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only Bills fan that's going to say the second that news broke that Stephon Diggs was coming to Buffalo was one of the happiest days of my life. And so, to be honest with you, for the longest time, the Bills have been missing that true number one wide receiver, probably the second position group where Bills fans were deprived of, number one being a quarterback. Like, I mean, right before we ended up getting Josh Allen, there was just a quarterback carousel, but that's an entire different story. Stephon Diggs really completely – and so he opens the entire playbook for the Buffalo Bills this year. And not only from the receiving standpoint, but from the run game, from our second and our third place wide receivers by itself. And, I mean, frankly, he's one of the best route runners right within the entire NFL. And I'm glad that he was able to not only find a way to come to Buffalo, and a huge tip of the cap to our general manager, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, because they were able to really get this guy off of a steal. And so they were really able to restructure his current contract that was already in place with the Minnesota Vikings. So it's really not even going to break the bank for us with the next 3 to 4 years. I'm really, really excited to see exactly what he does with this offense. I'm really hoping that he gets the targets that he thinks that he deserves. Last year, he wasn't targeted that often right in Minnesota, surprisingly. But, I mean, largely that had to do with the fact that he was competing with Adam Thielen as well, another very good wide receiver.
That's very true, yeah.
And so, like, I am just very excited that he's finally on a team where he is – there's no question about it that he's the wide receiver number one. And I just really can't wait to see what he's going to do on that field, because he's making our offense better entirely, and not just from a wide receiver room.
And one other thing I wanted to mention, Frank Gore, is he back with y'all this year, or is he retiring? What is he doing?
No, man, he's on the New York Jets.
Okay, so he came to the Jets.
And the New Jersey Jets, excuse me. Yeah. This is his what is this? Like his 12th team, I think, like 13th team.
He's been everywhere in the league. So I think naturally, moving on from Frank Gore, you're going to have a more explosive offense anyway, bringing in Diggs even more so. So yeah, y'all should be
for
very
sure,
fast
man.
on the outside.
For sure, you know. And So some people still think that I'm crazy about this, but I really hope that the Bills continue to be a run the ball type of offense first. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I still want to give Diggs at least over 1,000 yards and just a bunch of targets, just because I do understand that, he ended up having his issues with Minnesota, specifically on Twitter.
Right.
So I'm just hoping spread out the consistency when it comes to our offensive play calling, and would be more than happy just to do like a 55% run and a 45% pass type scheme.
Yeah, and it's funny, Dan, because I think a lot of Cowboys fans also want our offense to be first and foremost just running the ball, running Zeke into the ground. And at the same time, we have a coach and we have wide receivers where we're expected to have, not expected to, but we want to have 3,000-yard wide receivers next season. I don't know if it could happen. We had 2 last year in Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, but bringing in CD Lamb, that could be a whole new level of explosiveness in the offense for us. So that's pretty exciting.
That would be. And so would Michael Gallup, and so would he transition right over to like a slot receiver, you think, now that you ended up getting CD Lamb? Or
so CD Lamb's actually going to be starting in the slot, and Amari Cooper is another guy that will get some spots in the slot. He can play on the outside more often than not, but he does get slid into the slot. Gallup, as far as I know, does not play a ton in the slot. He's more of an outside, what do they call it, X or Z receiver, number 2, traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, Danny, I just want to bring up one other thing. I want an unbiased opinion from a Bills fan. What do you think the Cowboys' biggest strength is going into this season on the team, and our biggest weakness?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely your biggest strength goes without saying. It's your offense, man. And so, arguably, like you guys might have the best offense rate in the NFL, and statistically, y'all did last year. And so I really think that addition with CD Lamb going into it, and as far as your running back depth is concerned, and as far as Dak Prescott is as well from a statistical standpoint, he's a fantastic quarterback. And I mean, I think that y'all are going to run up the score this year, man. I really do. This offense is definitely going to be something that I'm going to enjoy as an NFL fan, just being able to see exactly what Dak's going to be able to do that. And I mean, hey, dude, worst case scenario, knock on wood, definitely wouldn't want to wish this on anybody. But if Dak goes down, I mean, I think Andy Dalton would still be able to have a field day with your offense. Yeah.
A lot of people forget Andy Dalton can play. There was a time when a lot of people, not including myself, but a lot of people thought that Dalton was a better quarterback than Romo for some years. I never agreed with that, but I think it does speak to the fact that Dalton did have a solid career for a lot of years. And at one time he was this promising prospect that a guy like Joe Burrow is today.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure, man. Honestly, with Andy Dalton, he was always plagued with the Swiss cheese offensive line. So, I mean, you put him behind y'all's offensive line. I mean, there's really not many quarterbacks in the NFL right now that I don't think wouldn't be successful with the Dallas Cowboys offense and the weapons that they have in front of them.
Yeah, I agree. And he always had A.J. Green and Cincy, but, he never had a lot of great number 2s. Tyler Boyd's finally starting to come into his own, but not until now.
Yeah.
But I also think Dallas's offense this year is going to be really fun to watch. Continuity is going to be a big key with us bringing Kellen Moore back as an offensive coordinator. I think Mike McCarthy being the new head coach, the offense isn't going to shoot themselves in the foot as much this year. We're not going to settle for as many field goals, not going to make as many dumb decisions. But what about the weakness? What do you think our biggest weakness is?
Sure, man. Sure. So, I mean, say that we were to do this video, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago prior to the Everson Griffin signing, then I would probably say that it would be your defensive line, specifically the interior, your defensive tackles, right? In fact, I think both of them are working on being reinstated at this point. But I mean, it seems like with just that new edge presence with Everson Griffin, which by the way was a fantastic deal, huge of the tip of the cap to either, so Jerry or so Mike
Steven
McCarthy
and McCarthy. And it was fantastic. And it kind of came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, now that there seems to be not necessarily the hole is completely filled within your defensive line at this point, but I mean, it does make it significantly better. I would have to say, since you guys ended up cleaning house within your entire defense department, right? Just
Yep.
completely sending them all to the curb from a
Coaching,
coaching
everything. Mm-hmm.
perspective. There might be a little bit of a change, right? Especially when it comes to the defensive scheme and overall just the leadership coming from that coaching staff. So I'm really interested to see how the Cowboys are going to really be able to build this chemistry with the coaching staff, especially since unprecedented. It's been super weird. There's no preseason game to hash anything out. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for your defense to actually mesh and gain chemistry with the coaching staff so they can learn this entire different scheme and play style. So that's what I would have to say is y'all's biggest weakness is the fact that the people leading your defensive initiative are completely new and they've had a really weird offseason.
Yeah, I could see us giving up some big plays this year. I think Trayvon Diggs is going to get a lot of play time as a rookie. Mike McCarthy in the press conference yesterday was kind of mentioning that he likes to play the rookies a lot from day one because that's the best way to get them ready for later in the season when they might be forced to play more. So I wouldn't be surprised if Diggs gets burned some. But I want to point out, I think we're really focusing on getting more turnovers this year. So we can afford to give up the big play here and there. If we get more interceptions, Byron Jones left for Miami, and that's going to hurt us some, but he did not have a single interception last year. So it'll be interesting to see how the defense moves on from that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Outside of that, defensive end to me did look kind of like a weak spot on that other side with Robert Quinn leaving for the Bears and DeMarcus Lawrence being double teamed on his side until we signed Everson Griffin. I was assuming Aldon Smith or Tyron Crawford might start, but with Griffin coming in, Aldon Smith can be depth as a backup. Crawford's going to be used more on the inside as a defensive tackle. And as you said, defensive tackle could be a little shaky. We got a lot of new guys. We did bring back Antoine Woods. I've heard great things about Tristan Hill, which he was kind of looking like a bust last year as a rookie. So it's good to hear anything positive about him. But I think defensive tackle in general is going to focus a lot more on depth this year and just rotating all the guys. We've got Gerald McCoy, Don Terry Poe. I mentioned Woods and Hill, and Tyron Crawford's still a pretty good pass rusher from the inside. So it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, man, honestly. And so if there's any position group that's worth stacking with depth, it's in the trenches, man. It's in the trenches. It's that defensive line and it's that offensive line. In my opinion, that's the most important position groups to stack in depth. And it seems like that's exactly what Mike McCarthy's goal was going once he ended up taking the reins over for the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely. And our defensive coordinator, Mike Nolan, he runs a hybrid 4-3. So sometimes he runs 4-3, sometimes a 3-4. So it'll be good to have a 1 tech and a 3 tech like Crawford on the team and being able to rotate different types of players inside and outside. That's going to be exciting to see. Crawford can play on the inside and outside. He's versatile. So is Gerald McCoy. The older he gets, he's more of a nose tackle, but he could still play at defensive end at times. So I'm really excited for this season, Dan.
Very nice. And yeah, me too, man. Yeah, me too. And so I swear, though, say that I hear one more person in my comment section being like, it's not going to be a season, dude. I'm going to flip. I'm going to flip out. The NFL is the greediest organization on the face of the planet. They are not letting this season fold.
I really thought for the longest time, Dan, that narrative was kind of right. And you know how I am. I tend to kind of overreact to things. I tend to panic a little. And when 13, 14 guys on the Marlins tested positive for COVID, I was like, oh, God, baseball's done, less than a weekend. I'm like, NFL doesn't have a chance. But now we see baseball kind of got a little more strict. They're doing better now. NFL teams are starting to take personal responsibility. Like the Dallas Cowboys are holding their entire training camp. Most of the guys are in a bubble at the Omni, beautiful hotel, by the way, at the Frisco Star. And they're even talking about extending that to the regular season. So I don't know if the Bills are taking any kind of proactive things, but I know a lot of teams are. If you could speak to that.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, from what I understand, there's no bubble in place at this point. We did have, I think, like a week or two, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had like a lot of our rookies test positive. Mm-hmm. But So they're all back, which is good. I'm not sure whether or not that they've put in a bubble place because like where like the Bills stadium is located, there's really not, let's say like a hotel that would be able to fit, and so like hundreds and hundreds of people.
Where are y'all practicing?
We are practicing at our facility, which is legitimately right next door.
So it's right there,
to the Bills Stadium. And so I say Bills Stadium because we don't have a name for our stadium yet.
Okay. So I wonder where they're all staying, if they're all just coming from home or what, if they're at a hotel in Buffalo.
And so I think that they're all just sort of staying at their respective homes, but I think for the most part, they've been relatively responsible because we really haven't had a player be added to the COVID-19 lists for about, I don't know, it's been weeks. So, I mean, sounds like that they're doing their thing. Yeah. They're definitely not pulling a Miami Marlins where they're going out to the bars with their boys after a game. so I mean, they're definitely doing their thing.
It seems like the players really want the season to happen. Same with the Cowboys. Yeah. We haven't had a lot of guys test positive recently. And like I said, we kind of have our own little bubble now. So I'm expecting it to be basically none at this point for the immediate future.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But Dan, again, I appreciate you I appreciate you coming on my channel. Everybody definitely go look up Dan. What's your channel called again? Is it just Dan Mitchell?
Yeah. So it's just Dan Mitchell. You can just go into the YouTube search bar and type in Dan Mitchell. You should be able to find me there. I do a bunch of Buffalo Bills content. I do some NFL videos, practically, I'd say occasionally. And so I'm also a part of Fan Network, which is streaming, I believe, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9, Sundays from 4 to 6. So say that you want to hear some Cowboys news, some Bills news, some Bengals news. We have a contributor for each and every single damn team. So, let's get hyped for this season.
Absolutely, man. It was great having you, Dan. I'll talk at you later, and we're going to be out.
Peace. For sure, dude.
Peace. Later.